Hey, what's up guys? My name is Moda and welcome back to the Mining Stacker YouTube channel. Today's video, another new ASIC, again from IbeLink. This is for SIA coin, the BM-S3 and potentially the S3 Max, right? We do know about the S3 for sure. The other one's speculation, but all signs are kind of pointing towards that, right? So we're going to talk about those units. We're going to compare it to the competition and see how it stacks up, right? We're going to look at profitability just to see if this thing makes sense at all, right? So if that sounds good, guys, stay tuned. Let's get to this thing. So the reason there's been a lot of hype with this recently, and that's probably what's causing this little resurgence with these old ass ASICs being brought back, is the fact that SIA coin's been pumping, right? Ultimately, this past month, or not even this past month, past hours, past 24 hours, it's been insane, right? It hit over 2 cents and then dropped 50% within hours, right? So it's heavily manipulated coin, right? Ultimately, though, it has gone up tremendously. So a lot of you guys who did have the OG SC5s or the SC6s or any of the HS5, HS6s that could dual mine this, and you guys held on, made out extremely well, right? And because of this, probably going to make out extremely well in the bull market if it continues at this rate, right? So a lot of eyes on it, but the reason I say it's heavily manipulated, tinfoil hat stuff, right? It's just basing it off the fact that this is not a new coin. This is a coin that has been around a long time, actually. Okay, we can go back all the way to freaking 2015. Okay, it's been around the block. It's been through a few cycles, right? Not just one, it's been through 2 cycles. So there are a lot of big bag holders, right? Most likely they're the ones kind of playing these little whale games. But hopefully you are able to take advantage and go from there. Very reminiscent of like Teller, if any of you guys have been following this thing, TRB. So this thing used to be mineable, was FPGA mineable back in like the black miner days. A lot of guys with those older FPGAs. Kind of similar thing. This one is also heavily manipulated. Doesn't even reflect on here, but if you pull this up on like TradingView or any of the exchange charts, it hit over 400 bucks legitimately right around New Year's Eve, right? Pretty crazy thing. It's been going up and down, and same thing. There's just a lot of big bag holders, super manipulated, kind of gives off the same kind of vibes because there's not really a whole lot going on with them. Either one of them is just a lot of price action, right? So regardless of the reason though, if you have a bag, make that money, right? At the end of the day, that's what we're here for, but neither one of these are projects I would necessarily follow too much or deal with too much, but that's why we are talking about SIA coin. It's just because of this. So IbeLink, the BM-S3 is official. This is from the Twitter. We're going to look at their website now. So 19 terahash, 3100 watts. Okay. Price is 4,700. A lot of the vendors and stores do have it listed now. It's between 4,400 to 4,800 essentially, right? So pretty much in that ballpark. It is available now. Not sure when it's shipping. It does seem like it's shipping now though, right? Or within the next few weeks most likely. So when we compare it to the most recent release, right, which coming from Gold Shell, it's the the SC5 Pro. It destroys it pretty significantly, right? And again, a lot of it is because of the fact that the SC5 Pro, it's old ass chips, right? Which is, in that video that we did talking about, is that it's extremely risky dealing with hardware, especially when you know it's old ass chips and old ass hardware, and we already knew that there was more recent hardware, right? So this is why, yes, it sounds like I'm being negative against Gold Shell all the time, but this is why, right? It is super dirty, right? The ASIC game in general is dirty, but there's levels to it, right? And this to me is pretty high on that list, right? So this guy, for example, it's 11 terahash, 2,800 watts. Again, comparing it to the 19, right? Which is not exactly double, but it's a good chunk higher for a little bit more wattage, right? 3,200 versus the 2,800. So pretty significant upgrade and not a whole lot of difference on the price, right? The other guy's 4,700, this guy's 3,700. So expect them to potentially, if they want to sell this thing, unless SIA coin like pumps to the moon, expect the price to most likely dip, right? Which they already started putting a sale on the SC Lite. This is what kind of gave the like, oh, something's probably going to get announced here pretty soon, is the fact that they, again, this thing just came out and they put it on sale already, right? And it's because, again, they know it. They know they're selling old ass chips, right? They're trying to like prey on the newbies and try to prey on like these people who just aren't doing research and just looking at profitability and getting them, right? So unfortunately, it is a very shitty business practice, but it is what it is, right? At the end of the day, you have to make that decision. I just like to highlight the things I look at when I'm looking at these things. Because again, any new hardware, I want to look at it, see if it makes sense to look at it from that perspective. So like when I'm doing these reviews and I'm talking about it, it's from me personally with the intention of potentially buy, right? So that's why a lot of them tend to be harsh, especially on the ASIC front, because again, it's very risky, like in the fact that you're buying something that you already know is outdated. That's why I said it was extreme risk, right? So hopefully you guys are starting to see that, and it's only going to get worse, right? We're starting to get into the greed phase of the market, right? And this is just pre-greed, right? We haven't even hit the halving it, right? But you're going to continue to see shady crap like that. We just saw it right now with Bitmain and the KS3 and the KS5, which is them intentionally sandbagging. This is the thing, is that when they intentionally already know that they have better chips and they're releasing the older stuff because there's no other competition, that's them sandbagging, right? Which we know Gold Shell has done for years, right? And it's just now becoming glaringly obvious when Bitmain decided to release their variants, right? Which outclassed them by multiple generations, not just, 100%. They were extreme upgrades, right? So pretty crazy stuff there. As we look at the others, I mean, again, this is why we were saying the SC5 Pro makes no sense, because in reality, the competition should have been the SC6, right? So realistically, they released the SC5 Pro at that price with the intention to dump on them the SC6 eventually, right? So don't be surprised to see this thing get announced and re-released, because again, it's one that has already been out. So don't be surprised to see that in the next month or two, or maybe sooner, or who knows, maybe they try to hold out into another pump. But they were already planning to dump on you guys anyway, right? And that's why, like, I will not be able to, in good faith, support or endorse Gold Shell with that knowledge, right? Even though all of them are going to do that, right? IbeLink, none of them are like good actors, right? But when it's this glaringly obvious, it's like, bro, like, you have to draw a line somewhere. That's why I was like, it was so frustrating to see all these people shilling the stupid ass watch and all that crap. It's just like, how are you guys like supporting this, right? Because realistically, by advertising for them, by doing those things, you are supporting them, right? So again, everybody does their own thing, but that's just my view as the consumer, as a person who talks about it, because I don't see myself as like a YouTuber. I'm not going to be the guy to get review units, because again, I talk about it bluntly from my perspective as a consumer of these items. I don't get anything for free. Everything I pay for, not even discounted. I pay for it just like you guys, right? So that's where my perspective is at, right? So I know even like when I did the box miner reviews, a lot of people were like, oh, you're so pessimistic, you're so dark. This is why, right? Like, how could I really support these kinds of things, right? But anyways, getting off topic here. So again, the SC6 is really the competition, because it's very comparable, right? 17 terahash, 3300 watts versus this guy. So it's going to be the same gen of chips, right? So 19 terahash, 3100 watts. So again, don't be surprised to see Gold Shell release this guy probably in the same price point, right? So let's look at profit wise. And it looks pretty good, right? And again, this is factoring in that SIA coin just dumped 50%, right? So realistically, if it were to make it back to the 2 cent range sometime soon, this would go higher. But even at its current price right now, it's not bad, right? It's making $5 profit, $12.50 revenue, $7.50 electricity at a 10 cent kilowatt hour, right? So the problem here though is, again, old ass chips, right? So it already looks like IbeLink is released. So shout out to Vosk. Looks like they're already releasing a S3 Max. They have it listed as a S1 Max, right? So this was accidentally leaked on their site, and it's already going to wreck that guy, right? So it's pretty much the next gen. So this is probably more, not even current gen, but probably on the gen of where like the K3 Max is, right? It's 32 terahash, 3200 watts. Okay, so again, another generational upgrade from where this S3 is, right? And this guy can release at any time. This guy has not been confirmed yet, but it looks like they have it waiting in the wild for when it's time to release it, right? So if we look at profitability on this thing, it gets even better, right? So income would be almost $21 in fiat value a day, $7.68 for electric, $13 a day profit. And again, that's with SIA coin going down 50% in a day, right? If it goes back at the 2 cents, pretty good chunk of change is going to make, right? So just keep in mind, if you're interested in the S3 or the SC6, because again, those are old ass chips. Those are at least a few years old, okay? And most likely, this is probably on the same generation of chips as the new IbeLink Caspa miner. We just saw what Goldshell did. Okay, so, or not Goldshell, we just saw what Bitmain did. It doubled again from there. Okay, so don't be surprised that the actual current gen of chips, right, like if Bitmain were to release one for this, would be the same type of generational leap, meaning twice the hash rate, probably the same power. So being as high as 64 terahash for 1300 watts, if they were to release one. Not really something that's on their radar, but that's kind of what we said about all the altcoin miners that they released at the beginning of last year, almost exactly 1 year ago, oddly enough, right? So something to keep in mind, right? So the S3 is there. This is potentially the S3 Max. Again, we don't know. Maybe this is a listing for something else, because again, it is listed wrong. They have the S1 Max, which already does exist, but again, that's the old S1. We know that the S3 is the current gen. Who knows, right? But just that's the risk with buying these older chips, these older machines, and that's just the ASIC game, right? And especially right now, we're gonna go more into the greed stage. Everything was down before this whole past year, so they were just trying to sell what they could, right? Now we're getting into the stage where it's gonna get ultra crazy, ultra ridiculous, ultra greedy. And not just for these algos, for any algo, right? We just saw specifically, like Bitmain, to me, the biggest game changer with the KS3 and the KS5 was the fact that, because we've seen Goldshell do that, we've seen IbeLink do it, essentially be like sandbagging, releasing a miner when they know they have better chips out there, right? Just keeping control of that market. There's no competition. They can do that. We just saw Bitmain do that, which typically their play was whatever chips they have access to, the most recent, that's what they release, and that's it, right? But we just saw now that, again, they did a whole generational leap in 6 months, meaning they most likely could have released that KS5 right from the get-go, right? So who's to say that what's next? Is there going to be a new, freaking CKB miner? Is there going to be a KA5? Is there going to be a new ETC miner? Like, what else are they sandbagging with that they're kind of preparing for, right? We know typically spring and fall is when a lot of these ASICs get announced, right? We can reflect back to the past few years. Springtime has been a hot spot for a lot of new miner announcements, right? Anytime between pretty much now, February, or even the beginning of the year to like March, April, right? There's typically a lot of announcements to be made. We'll see if any others come out. I mean, realistically, it would make more sense for them to just wait until after the halving, right? Or after, in case we do have a little dip after the halving, wait a few months and then release whatever they're going to release, right? So, because then at that point, they can release it for a lot higher price points. Again, it's the greed factor. We're going to get into this portion where the ASICs are going to start getting extremely expensive, extremely hard to get, and you're going to see a lot of this shady crap happen all over, right? And this is not specific to Goldshell, not specific to IbeLink. It's all of them, okay? They all play a very shady game, and this is the game that you're trying to play with also, right? Again, this is a game it's basically a rigged game, right? And we're trying to just play in between and swim with the whales and see what we can do. And a lot of it's luck, bros. That's why, like, a lot of it is luck. Like, it's because it's so hard to tell, because they're not going to tell us, right? They're not going to tell us like, oh yeah, we have next gen, Kadena ASIC chips already. We're not going to know that until it's too late, right? Until once they leached you, once they got that money from you, then they'll go. So that's why I highly suggest whatever ASIC you want to get into, research that coin, research that ASIC, research the likelihood of another one coming out, right? Because again, that's the biggest factor, is that immediately as soon as a bigger, better miner comes out, you're gonna get wrecked, right? So it's up to you to determine. It's up to you to take that potential risk and determine to see if it's worthwhile, right? Because it can happen at any given time. Sometimes it works out beautifully, other times it won't, right? Like right now, luckily the ones we bought at the beginning of last year, when everybody was super bearish, those have panned out and worked out extremely well, right? People are just now starting to really purchase those. When in my opinion, it's a lot riskier because it's already been a year, right? And a lot of people just now jumping into the K7 and the K3 and such. It's like, you guys missed the year of the great yields, right? A lot of us already made our money back on those. At this point, it's like, oof, again, that KS3, KS5 thing is just really making it risky, making it known that, okay, Bitmain is also sandbagging as well, right? So it's just a lot of risk buying with these machines with older hardware, right? So again, it can happen to anybody, it can happen to any manufacturer. And that's not to say, oh, you know, don't jump into anything because you're going to get wrecked. Like, if you want to make that money, you have to take that risk, right? And I'm not saying you should do that. I'm not saying what's in your best interest. You do you, right? When I do these things, it's just my perspective and whether I would consider buying one, why or why not, right? I'm super open with that. Even from the beginning of when the K3 came out, the K7, I let you guys know my opinion on it and why I thought the way I did, right? And a lot of it just had to do with the likelihood of a bigger, better miner coming out, right? To me, that is the biggest risk with ASICs, okay? Because at any given time, a new one comes out, just like with, again, those Kadena, the gold shell Kadena miners, and make it a doorstop or make it a decoration on your shelf. Hence that freaking thing back there, okay? And that's the game that we play, okay? So you really just have to understand that, okay? It's not as simple as, yep, I'm going to get this and ASIC miner value, or the ASIC says I'm going to ROI in 6 months. Awesome. It's a little bit more than that, right? Hopefully it does, right? Hopefully you are able to pan out. It does work out, but just understand that it's high risk, and it's even more so right now. Again, we're getting in that greedy stage. We're getting in the stage where it's gonna get rough, bros. It's gonna get rough, and that's why I highly recommend knowing your vendors, knowing your stores, building relationships with those, having that trust factor, right? So having stores like Coastal or like Altair Tech, where it's people who they're gonna tell you what it is, right? Whether it's something you want to hear or not, they're gonna tell you what it is. Okay, and understand that there's gonna be a lot of shenanigans, especially with like pre-order things, right? We saw last bull market where, yes, people pre-ordered it at this one price, but then right before it was actually going to come out, it had like doubled in price. And what happened? They took the freaking double in price, sold it to that guy, and had you waiting. The guy who pre-ordered it 6 months ago, waiting, right? Because again, they're selling them for more money to this guy over here, right? So a lot of shady stuff is going to happen. We're going to see it. Expect it, right? Again, that's why that was the advantage of having this downtime, where it's easy to get miners. And even right now, right, it's an awesome time where you can go to any of your favorite vendors and order whatever the heck you want. Bookmark this video. In 12 months from now, not going to be the story, right? You're going to be fighting for scraps at prices that are like 4, 5, 6 times as high, right? So it's just factor those things in, guys. Make sure you're doing your research. Look at different things. Look at historically what has happened. Look at the likelihood of things. But again, when it's this glaringly obvious that there are next-gen ASICs already, why would you support that, right? So just stuff to consider. Again, you do you. You want to go in, you want to do it. You think SIA coin is going to go to $1, by all means, right? So again, this is not trying to sway you to buy or not buy. It's just giving you my thoughts and opinions on it, right? So let me know in the comments, guys. What do you guys think? Did any of you guys... Hopefully none of you guys jumped on this thing. But are any of you guys interested in this S3 or the S3 Max? Out of the bunch, the S3 Max maybe, right? Just because it's probably going to be, if Gold Shell were to release a SC7, it'll probably be equivalent to the S3 Max. And I don't think it's super duper likely that Bitmain will release one, but who freaking knows, right? There's so many variables, so many things. But again, if it's something you're interested, if this is a coin you're super interested in, it might be something to consider. But at the end of the day, whoever has access to those higher quality chips is going to win the game, right? Whether they sandbag and release one 6 months later, that's who's going to win it. And right now, currently, the leader is definitely Bitmain, right? So that's why for me, especially here going on forward, it's pretty much Bitmain or nothing, unless it's something super speculative where they probably won't release something for it, right? And even then, it's risk versus reward thing, because again, we're gonna play these games with like this Lithium ASIC when it comes out, the eventual Radiant ASIC. It's gonna be a lot of things, and those are kind of different categories though also, because it's gonna be more similar to with Casper, right? This is a coin that's been around a long time. These like Lithium ASICs, when they come out, gonna be a different story, right? So we're gonna see what happens. We're gonna look at it. It's gonna be interesting next 12 months, especially right now. I wouldn't be surprised to see more new announcements of other ASICs. Who knows what, right? Because at this point, it's been about a year since a lot of the Bitmain units have been out, right? So a lot of them wouldn't be the most surprising thing in the world to see updates or refreshers. But again, most likely they're going to wait till we get some bullish price action, unless one of these other competitors gives them a reason to, right? So we'll see. Let me know in the comments, guys, what you guys think, what you guys are doing. Please comment, like, and subscribe, guys. Thank you for watching, and I am out.